Good evening. This is a public meeting or hearing of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. My name is Michael Schmidt, and I'm chairman of the commission. Welcome to this public meeting. Seated to my left is Vice Chairman Robert Cicero, and to my right, Dr. Talina Matthews, who is our third commissioner. We're accompanied by several members of the PSC staff this evening. They are Gwen Pinson, our executive director, Ariel Miller, Brittany Koenig, Connie Hunt, Andrew Melnikovich, and Jim Rhodes. We are here for the purpose of taking public comment on the application of Kentucky Utilities Company for approval of an adjustment in rates for electric service. The case number is 2018-00294. If you were here for the earlier informational session, you heard about this application in greater detail and also received an explanation of how the PSC will go about reaching a decision in this case. If you missed the presentation, it is available on the Public Service Commission website, which is psc.ky.gov. The presentation also has information about the parallel case 2018-00295 filed by Louisville Gas and Electric Company, which is a sister company to Kentucky Utilities. We conducted a public meeting in that case last week in Louisville. We understand that any matter that affects utility rates is likely to produce strong and differing opinions. We trust that everyone here this evening will present their comments in a respectful manner and respect the right of everyone to be heard. Now let me explain how we will proceed for the remainder of this event. We are here to listen to the public. Therefore, there will be no presentations by Kentucky Utilities or any of the other parties, the intervenors, to this case. Nor will there be any question and answer period involving the parties. The Commission will be taking sworn testimony from them in a forthcoming evidentiary hearing. Following questions and answers on the record as part of this meeting, or allowing questions and answers on the record as part of this meeting, creates the potential for procedural problems later in the process. However, representatives of Kentucky Utilities have agreed to remain after the conclusion of public comments tonight to meet informally with anyone who has any individual questions they wish the company to address. At this time, would representatives of Kentucky Utilities please stand so members of the audience can identify you and know who you are so they might want to ask questions. Thank you. In addition to that, in every utility rate case of significance, the Kentucky Attorney General's office intervenes in the case. By law, the Attorney General has an opportunity, if he so desires, to intervene in a case for protection of the public. In this case, the Kentucky Attorney General has intervened in the case, and a member of the Kentucky Attorney General's office, an attorney, Mr. Justin McNeil, is here this evening. Mr. McNeil, would you stand? And Mr. McNeil has also agreed to be good enough to answer any questions that you might have of him after the meeting. In addition, we've identified members of the PSC staff, but our staff members will be here also after the meeting. Would the PSC staff members please stand up so members of the public will know who they are? Okay. You've heard from Mr. Melnikovich. Brittany Koenig is a staff attorney at the Public Service Commission on the front row, and Ariel Miller is a financial analyst who's also working on the case. So feel free to speak to any of the representatives of the Public Service Commission, the Attorney General's office, or Kentucky Utilities after the meeting. Those of you wishing to speak should have indicated your intention to do so when you signed in this evening. If you have not signed in, you are still welcome to speak, and I will invite you to do so after those who have signed up to speak have made their comments. Based on the number of people who have indicated a desire to speak, we are going to allow 5 minutes per speaker. so that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. Our timekeeper, Ariel Miller, will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining by holding up a yellow card, and when your time is up by showing a red card. Those of you who do not wish to speak may submit comments in writing. We have comment forms available at the registration table. You may turn those in tonight to a member of the PSC staff, or you may mail or fax them to the Public Service Commission. The address and phone number of the Public Service Commission are on the forms. You may also submit comments by email through the Public Service Commission website, which is psc.ky.gov. As you can see, this meeting is being recorded, and the video will be available on the PSC website. A summary of the public comments received tonight will be prepared for the Public Service Commission and will become a part of the case record, which is also available on the website. All written comments also will be entered into the case record. Written comments will be accepted through the date of the formal evidentiary hearing in this case. That hearing, during which Kentucky Utilities Company, as well as its sister company, Louisville Gas and Electric, and the other parties will present their cases to the Public Service Commission and will be subjected to cross-examination. This hearing will begin at 9:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, March 5th at the Public Service Commission offices at 211 Sauer Boulevard in Frankfort, and may last several days. It is open to the public and will be streamed live on the PSC website, which is, once again, psc.ky.gov. 3 important things to keep in mind before we begin. Because the commissioners must rule on the public utilities application, we cannot answer questions pertaining to the subject of the case or substance of the case. However, questions you raise during this meeting may well be of assistance to the PSC and staff as we prepare for the evidentiary hearing. And PSC staff, as aforementioned, will be available after the public comments are concluded to answer any questions you may have regarding procedural matters in the case. The Public Service Commission has jurisdiction only over the rates and services of utilities. We have no jurisdiction over matters such as environmental standards or public health. Those are regulated by a number of federal, state, and local agencies. Therefore, the most helpful comments are those that directly address the merits of the Kentucky Utilities proposal with respect to the size and structure of the requested rate adjustment and the reasons for the adjustment. The legal standard which the PSC must follow in determining rates is that they be fair, just, and reasonable. While the PSC is certainly aware of and sensitive to the impacts of rate adjustments on a utility's customers, Kentucky law does not include affordability as a consideration in the setting of rates. If you have concerns or questions about service or billing for individual accounts, the most effective way to have those addressed is to speak with a member of the PSC staff after this meeting, or call our toll-free consumer hotline at 800-772-4636 during regular business hours. Now, when you come up to speak, please state your name and place of residence, and again, please keep your comments to the allotted time so that others may have an opportunity to address the commission. The reason that your name and address is requested is so, one, you can be identified for the comments section when it goes into the record, and secondly, it's obvious that the people who have a valid interest in the case are Kentucky Utilities customers, so it's important that you live in their service area. The Public Service Commission has always in the past asked that any public official of the city, county, state government who would like to come and speak be given the first opportunity to speak, after which we will take comments from those who signed up to speak in the order in which they signed in. So at this time, is there any elected public official here this evening who would like to come up and speak? And if so, please come forward and state your name, your public office, please.
Hello. Good evening. First, let me begin by saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Sherilyn Stevenson, and I am a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives. I represent the 88th District, which is the southeast portion of Lexington. There is no doubt that we are in the midst of a pivotal time regarding Kentucky's energy policies, and I am encouraged by the dialogue that has been taking place. Kentucky's families need an ally, and they need a champion. This is not the time for two of the Commonwealth's largest monopolies to unilaterally decide to increase our utility rates. Instead of working together to find common sense solutions to complex problems, LG&E and KU are attempting to pass the buck directly on to their consumers, many of whom are our most vulnerable friends and neighbors. The Public Service Commission is supposed to be an advocate for everyday Kentuckians. We are placed in a position in which we rely on the services being provided by these companies and are left with no choice but to accept the rates that they set. Therefore, it is imperative that the PSC always work for the public's best interest. You are our only voice, and you are our seat at the table. The proposed rate hikes are not only based on energy and gas used. Instead, LG&E and KU want to increase their service fees by as much as 34%. Essentially, without even using any more energy, your bill will be substantially higher under the umbrella of a service charge. Surely, we can do better than this. Our low-income or fixed-income families will be put in a situation where even attempts to conserve energy will not help to lower their bill. Just for simply living within the service area and having access to basic utilities, LG&E and KU have decided that folks should pay even more. How dare us create an environment in which an elderly widow may have to choose between groceries and heat? This scheme is not the Kentucky that I know and love. We are problem solvers. We take care of our neighbors. We stand up for what's right. To the PSC, I implore you, on behalf of the thousands of Kentuckians who could not make this meeting tonight, please do not allow this increase to go through. Let's work to rise above this political maneuvering and allow all stakeholders a voice so that we can work to find common ground for the common good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other public official here this evening who would like to step forward and address the commission? Okay, if not, we will take public comments in the order in which you have signed in. And after all those who have signed in have spoken, I will ask if anyone else would like to address the commission, and you'll get an opportunity to do so even if you haven't signed in. Okay, our first speaker is Robbie Trimble.
Yeah, I shouldn't sign.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it had no. I apologize. Larry Gillespie.
That's going to be hard to follow. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight and allowing this to happen at this hour. I'm used to the city having meetings at 2:30 while everybody's at work. As I read in the paper, unless I am mistaken, a part of this was so that they could respond faster to outages and to take care of those outages. Now, as I see these new vehicles down on Vine Street, Ford Explorers and F-150s without ladders or buckets on them, I don't think that those are going to be used to respond to those outages. It's not that you're talking about profit just for the stockholders. We're talking about all the expenses that KU has. One of my questions is, why is KU advertising on TV? They're the only act in town. We don't have a choice. That is an expense that hopefully you folks will look at in advertising. KU tells us to close our drapes and so forth in the winter, and open them, or close them in the summer, open them in the winter for heat and so forth, all of which, of course, means that we're trying to conserve. The problem is, the more we conserve, the less product they have to produce, and then they charge us more. So we end up paying more for less, and that all should be considered. KU's profit, and I'm sure you gentlemen look at that, is controlled to a great deal by their expenses. And expenses, being a small businessman, I know can get totally out of line. And I can't go to a committee like you folks and ask for an increase. I've got to pay the increases. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lois Gillespie? She what?
She left.
Left, oh. Joey Shadowin?
Hi, my name is Joey Shadowin, and I live here in Lexington. I asked the PSC that they oppose the KU and LG&E rate increase, as I feel this is unjust, unfair, and unreasonable proposal that is contrary to Kentucky law. I call on you to deny this rate change. These proposals will hurt many customers, especially low and fixed income people, apartment dwellers, and people who attempt to conserve energy. This will limit our ability to save money and reduce our energy use, and will discourage many people from installing rooftop solar or energy efficient systems, steps which are needed to lower harmful pollution and protect our health and climate. These rates are unfair, unjust, and a step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Kathy Clement?
Thank you, and I live in Lexington. KU is charged with providing an essential public service. I've been thinking about what does that mean. An essential public service should be available to all members of the public. It should be safe and reliable. It should help us and not harm us. With the proposed rate changes, in particular the increase in the fixed basic charge that we pay regardless of the amount of energy used, KU is failing us as a public service. It seems that KU wishes to operate in a vacuum, sealed from the realities of the public they serve. Our realities are that many people are financially insecure and cannot afford their bills. Pollution from energy generation is threatening our health. Climate disruption is threatening our world. If these realities are ignored, then KU cannot provide safe and reliable service. And I am concerned about the PSC's opposition to hearing from public interest groups. Contrary to what was presented earlier, these groups have been historically allowed to intervene in rate cases. The continuing increases in basic service charge, as people have already said, mean that customers are less and less able to control their bills through energy use. For low-income customers, then they become unaffordable. People must choose between paying for electricity, medicine, medical care, food, or housing. This is not safe. If customers become disconnected, then they are not safe and their service is not reliable. In fact, the service has become unavailable to those customers. For all of us, the increase in the basic service charge discourages energy conservation and investment in upgrades and renewables. Therefore, KU's proposals, along with the recent elimination of energy-efficient programs, would harm us rather than help us. A service that discourages reduction in energy-related pollutants does not make us safe. A service that discourages investments that could mitigate climate change does not make us safe. KU's arguments for the increase in the service charge are based on disputed claims about so-called fixed costs, about appropriate cost recovery, and about the cost to KU of efficiency and rooftop solar. KU uses the same faulty arguments to seek the PSC's endorsements of an unprecedented breakdown of their energy charge. Endorsement of this breakdown by the PSC will clearly be used by KU in their attempts to get rid of net metering. KU's application for raising and restructuring rates contains tortured reasoning and unsupported claims. It seems that rather than fulfill their obligations as a public service, they want to guarantee higher income with their fixed fees. And they want to eliminate competition from the rooftop solar industry. Their proposals are putting us all at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure I can read this last name, but I think it's Susan Speckert. Speckert, sorry.
Thank you. I'm Susan Speckert. I'm the Commissioner of Law for the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government. Mayor Gordon could not be here this evening, so I'm here on behalf of the city to oppose the rate increase sought by Kentucky Utilities because of the burden the increase would impose on the businesses, citizens, schools, and the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government. The vast majority of Fayette County is served by KU. Since 2009, KU has sought increases about every 2 years. They have raised rates 4 times, resulting in an approximate 25% increase to residential, business, educational, and governmental customers. Because of these rate increases, residential customers have seen an approximate increase of $300 per year in their bills. This translates into ever-increasing costs for Lexington citizens, businesses, schools, and the urban county government, and amounts to nothing more than a tax on the hardworking men and women of Fayette County. KU is now requesting an increase of approximately 7%. To put this into perspective, if this increase is approved, the urban county government will pay over $500,000 more a year just to provide streetlights for the safety of our citizens, neighborhoods, and roads. This rate increase would impact the quality of life of every citizen in Lexington. It's bad for economic development, making one of Kentucky's largest employment areas less competitive for new jobs due to higher rates. If past performance is the best indicator of future behavior, Fayette County citizens can expect their rates to continue to rise every 2 years. This is simply unsustainable and unfair. Thank you for your time and for your consideration of our concerns.
Thank you. Dick Shore.
Yes, I'm Dick Shore. I live on Catalpa Road in sort of downtown Lexington. I started to say that I am served by KU. I buy my electricity from KU. I'm going to focus on one very specific thing, and that has to do with the split between the fixed fee that I pay for the privilege of having KU provide my electricity and the variable fee which I pay for the kilowatt hours that I actually use. If the utility needs more money, I would much rather have it be a kilowatt hour fee than a fixed fee. Utilities have, since the very, very beginning, had to make a guess as to how many kilowatt hours they would sell and spread their costs over that. Nothing has changed in that. I don't know what they have in mind by requesting this increase in the fixed fee, but it does not serve the interests of the community. if I wanted to cut my expenditure for electricity, there are things that I can do, but I can't disconnect to avoid the monthly fee. And so I urge you to seriously consider not increasing the fixed fee, perhaps decreasing it. But if they need more money, it needs to be on the kilowatt hour fee.
Thank you. Julie Peace.
I feel like I have to say lady and gentleman, because she got omitted last time. My name is Julie Pease, and I live in Danville, Kentucky on Harrington Lake. And I'm one of many residents concerned about the coal ash and other source pollution of the lake. We have requested a public meeting to talk about the pollution of the lake, and so far, we have not met with a positive response. Therefore, I am using this public meeting to voice concerns about the pollution of the lake, which is the source of our drinking water, and to ask that any rate increase be contingent upon the presentation of a plan to stop the poisons from entering the lake and remediate the pollution that has been occurring for the last 50-plus years. As a KU customer, I receive the Neighbor to Neighbor newsletter. I appreciate that the E.W. Brown personnel are involved in the community and want to be good neighbors. However, the community has not been given full access to information, including what E.W. Brown has done or will do to remediate the problems at the plant. The quote from the letter: "Here at E.W. Brown, we are very proud of the environmental strides we continue to make." Close quote. If that statement from the fall 2018 newsletter is true, then please demand that KU hold a public question and answer session to detail the initiatives they are taking at the E.W. Brown plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, is it Kubola or?
Oh, and I will pass my,
Okay, thank you. Well, at the end, if you want to speak, then you can come back, okay? Thanks. Chris Woolery.
Sorry, y'all. It's always technology. Thank you all for being here, for the difficult work that you do, and for allowing me to speak today. My name's Chris Woolery. I live in Lexington. I do purchase my kilowatt hours from Kentucky Utilities. I'm an energy efficiency professional that has audited and or retrofitted over 1,000 households across Kentucky. I'm here to speak for myself as a KU customer, but I want to draw from this experience in my testimony. I used to build Energy Star homes, but I lost my home and my business after the housing market crashed in 2008. But Kentucky helped me build on my skill set. The state helped me get a weeks-long training and a certification, and with that I was able to get a good job helping people save money on their energy bills. Now, I also get to help displaced coal industry and other workers do the same through a new energy internship program. So I get to help people lower their bills via energy efficiency, and I see folks struggling with energy bills regularly that are twice as much as their rent or their house payment. This PSC is now allowing, if not outright requiring, utilities to walk away from these clients' tremendous needs for energy efficiency services across the state. And although our utilities don't need efficiency anymore, their customers absolutely do. When I was broke and homeless, I used to walk to a local dollar store I was able to get 3 decent dinners for myself and my kids for $10. I was able to buy 10 packs of ramen noodles and 3 packs of frozen vegetables. Today, I walk to the grocery store in Kentucky, in Lexington, where our low-income citizens live in the middle of a food desert, and I found that my $10 don't go that far today. Today, I could not afford the veggies I was only able to buy 10 packs of ramen noodles. My testimony is personal to me. I don't intend it to be personal to the PSC. But how can the PSC allow these utilities continue to make their profits while at the same time ignoring the needs of their hardest struggling constituents? What do we as consumers get in return for granting utilities this monopoly status? I know that utilities and the PSC still support energy efficiency for low-income Kentuckians, but they don't come anywhere near to meeting the needs that we see every year across Kentucky. I know that we can design and implement energy efficiency programs that help the neediest people in Kentucky without hurting the rest of the ratepayers. I know this because that's what I do for a living. We create retrofits that literally pay for themselves out of the savings on the energy bill. And our program, very much like energy efficiency itself, literally pays for itself through financial savings to the participating utility companies. Kentuckians deserve utilities and regulators that represent their needs, not the needs of utilities and their investors. Kentuckians deserve utilities that are under public control, not investor-owned. If we can't get that, we should at least get well-designed energy efficiency programs that allow the neediest of us to respond to the rate increases that are coming upon us nearly every other year. This is something that we can do, and I know that because we're doing it now. I would encourage you to consider these comments. If you're going to grant these rate increases, please require these utilities to do common sense energy efficiency programs that pay for themselves and do not harm the rate base so that we can address the impacts on the neediest Kentuckians. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Lee.
Thank you. I appreciate being allowed to speak to you all today. This is the first time I've been to a hearing like this. But when I heard all of this on the radio, it definitely impacts me strongly enough to bring me here tonight after being at work all day. But I also, as somebody's already said, I appreciate that it was at a time when I was able to be here and hear the conversation and also give you my concerns. I think my biggest concern is that, like many people in Lexington, sorry, I forgot to state my name again, Jessica Lee, Lexington. I think the biggest concern that I have is I live paycheck to paycheck, like many people do. And it's not something that I just throw out there and then go blow a bunch of money on things. It literally is a spreadsheet that I have that has my budget, it has my bills, it has how much money's coming in, how much money's going out. I know there's no room in my budget. So when I hear of increases, when I know that KU has already increased recently, that is definitely a concern to me, because one thing I do to salvage that money in my budget is I use less energy. And it sounds to me like what they're going to do is take that option from me to where no matter what energy level I use, if I use less utilities and conserve that energy, I'm still going to pay more money. So I'm being penalized for being more energy efficient. And so I am definitely concerned about that. I do not understand why I would be penalized and how the PSC would allow KU to go forward with something like that penalizes people. I think, if anything, people that use more energy should pay more for it. That just makes common sense. That's the way we are in life. If we are more efficient on our jobs or whatever, we're praised, but it sounds like we are giving the opposite message and saying, well, even if you do better and you're more efficient or you put solar panels on, we're still going to charge you more money. And I think it's sending the wrong message to our community, sending the wrong message to our young people that are coming up. And I definitely don't think, I don't think it makes any sense, the message that we're sending. So I'm asking the PSC to please consider that and take into account there are those of us that we count on that efficiency to bring, money. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pull, if the rates go up, I'm going to have to pull money out of necessities, food, fuel, to pay for those increases. And so I'm asking you to please consider that. It's not just myself. I'm sure it's many people in Lexington. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Norton.
Hey y'all, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it and appreciate you hearing my thoughts. I was here 2 years ago at the last rate case hearing and making some of these same points because this is a similar request. I'm similarly deeply concerned about the choice to increase these fixed monthly charges, as many before me have stated. I believe this does disempower consumers to lower their monthly costs by using less energy and also disincentivizes investing in energy efficiency and solar. Several of us this evening have brought examples of other items that we can purchase with roughly $10 in our budget, and which is the rough amount of the proposed increase. And I brought another monthly cost that I personally have, a box of tampons, so that's something else that I can't avoid. And then I would also just like to express my concerns on another issue about the public interest groups that were normally allowed to intervene in these cases. Apparently, some of them were being shut out. I know in the presentation this evening, it said that the Community Action Council and the Sierra Club were being allowed to intervene in this rate case, but I understood there were several, including the Metropolitan Housing Corporation, I think, and another that were being disallowed to intervene in this case. And I know a lot of these organizations that were disallowed were ones that were representing low to moderate income folks, while for-profit businesses like Walmart were still being allowed and weren't disallowed. So that struck me as somewhat concerning as a consumer, and concerned about my neighbors that may not have been represented as equally as some of the businesses, especially for-profit businesses in our communities. So I don't actually know where that stands now that I saw the Community Action Council and the Sierra Club up on the presentation. I'm not sure where that stands at this point, but regardless, I did have a concern that the public interest groups representing low-income families were being shut out of this process, and this left me feeling a bit of distrust and concern towards the Public Service Commission, and how they were advocating for me and for my neighbors. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you hearing my comments.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure I can read the last name here, but I think it's Nikita. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi, my name is Nikita Perumal. And I have also been doing a little bit of work around Kentucky for the past year or so around energy efficiency. I actually, Kentucky Utilities used to offer a energy incentive for making home energy improvements that me and my housemates took advantage of. We patched up holes in our attic. We had a home energy audit come in. We caulked around our windows and put weather stripping in our doors. We improved the energy efficiency of our home by 30%. Our bills went down, and we received a financial incentive from Kentucky Utilities that really empowered me and my housemates. That program is no longer available, and I think a lot of folks here have mentioned that, our utilities here are monopolies. We don't have a choice in where we get our energy. I think it's the least that we can that our utilities can offer us is energy efficiency programs and also rates that reflect like a value for people conserving energy through lowering their bills, and also for things like solar energy. And that fixed rate that the new proposed rate increase kind of incorporates, I don't think really reflects that at all. In fact, it would make it really hard. It would hurt low-income folks the most, and like I said, have a really big impact on folks trying to conserve energy through energy efficiency fixes like what me and my housemates did, and also putting rooftop solar on your house. I've also, similarly to Rachel, been really concerned about the blocking out of low-income folks. From what I understand, that was an unprecedented move, that the Public Service Commission would deny some groups access to intervene in this case while allowing groups like Walmart and Kroger that right. Because we live in a state of utility monopolies, I think it's only just and it's only fair that our utilities are offering programs and rates that work for the public, and I think it's only just that the Public Service Commission, the one independent regulatory body we have out there, really does work as on the side of the public, as the group that places a little bit of a hold on the utilities authority. And I didn't really see that happen when low-income groups were blocked out of that process, so I also just wanted to kind of double note what Rachel said and express my disappointment in that. And lastly, there's just a couple things about the rate case itself, or the rate proposal, that I wanted to flag. One is that the plan hides important information from consumers. So we're going to have an increased fixed charge of $16.43 a month, but it'll now show up on people's bills as 53 cents a day. That doesn't change how much we're going to pay, but it does change what people see. And I find it a little deceptive to have that stated that way. Once again, the fixed charge will increase, and we'll be paying about $13 more a month, every single month, for our electricity. I was sick recently, and I went to the pharmacy, and my copay was about $10. That's another item we could be spending money on if we didn't have to increase our bills yet again for another time in just 2 years. And then, there's a last note that's a little more wonky, but I think from what I understand, this rate is going to change not just the fixed charge, but also the energy charge, to split it into a variable and an infrastructure charge. And I don't understand all the metrics of how that works, but I've read a couple of materials that kind of imply that down the road, utilities will be using the argument of having the energy charge and a variable and infrastructure charge to undermine rooftop solar in Kentucky. That's already being undermined by utilities through excessive lobbying in the state legislature. But this just seems like another process they're trying to use, their rate structure, another way that they're trying to undermine rooftop solar in the future through their rate structure. And I don't think that's quite just, and I also want to just shed light to it. I thank you all for hearing me out, and really, really strongly encourage you to oppose this rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you. So Scott Wegenast.
Scott Wagonus, I'm the Associate State Director for Communications and Outreach for AARP Kentucky, and I am proud to stand here and represent our 470,000 members across the state and express our concerns, as we did in the Louisville meeting, for those members. As you know, many of our AARP members are on fixed and low incomes, and they're already having trouble making their ends meet. Accordingly, we have a number of concerns with the following, which would be especially hard on this group. At the end of the month, when that Social Security check is running out, there are many seniors in Kentucky, many of whom I've met in Fayette and around the surrounding counties, who at the end of that month are making difficult choices between paying more for their prescription drugs, the fixed costs that they have for medical care, and as well as paying their energy use. LG&E and Kentucky Utilities should not be allowed to raise the monthly fixed rate customers pay. Increasingly, the mandatory monthly fee is unfair and disproportionately burdensome to the low income and older Kentuckians. AARP has successfully argued in many other states the customer charge should not be expanded beyond its traditional role of collecting metering and billing costs. Simply, other costs should not be shifted for recovery from the customer charge. The Public Service Commission should follow the lead of other commissions, including Oklahoma, Minnesota, Arizona, to name a few, and keep the customer fixed charge where it is so customers can continue to control their energy spending. We do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and speak before you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. David Butler. Okay, if Mr. Butler was our last speaker, our last person who signed up, so he isn't here. So is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak who hasn't signed up? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, just come up and state your name and address, and we'd love to have your comments.
Hi, I'm James Bacon Brown. I live in Lexington and over by Woodland Park on High Street. And I just want to add, in addition to what everyone else has said today, disempowering consumers from being able to control their payment through modulating how much energy they use isn't just a bad thing because of a consumer rights perspective, and it isn't just a bad thing because energy efficiency is good in some abstract sense, but because it has a very real consequence in terms of public health and in terms of the environment and in terms of the climate. And I think that has to be considered as well. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Could anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is David Butler. I live on Tremont Avenue in Lexington, and I appreciate this opportunity. And I know you just called my name, and I was out of the room. Sorry about that.
Glad you could make it.
So I do understand that monopolies are necessary, in the case of large utilities, and I understand that they're kind of a different beast, and I appreciate that you guys work to make sure that they function that they remain healthy entities, but they also function in the public interest. Clearly, the electricity industry is changing, and when industries change, companies are forced to adapt, and sometimes that's painful. The utilities are concerned about reduced consumption, or maybe just the reduce in the rate of growth of consumption, so I understand that that's an issue for them. But in most businesses, when they experience a drop in sales, it requires the business to make an adjustment. And there could be a lot of different ways to make that adjustment. One might be to work to expand markets. They could do that by promoting electrification. They could reduce their operating costs. They could stop advertising on TV about how they're empowering us to do our own energy efficiency things at the same time that they're taking away the incentive to do that. They could reduce their profits. That's what happens in a regular business when sales go down. They could reduce salaries. They could look for ways to be innovative. Or they could increase the price of the product, which is the kilowatt hour. And of course, they are asking for an increase in the kilowatt hour rate, but mostly they're asking for an increase in the base service charge. And what other business can do that? So I wonder if their goal is in fact to discourage conservation so that consumption does not continue to decline, so that they kind of nip this problem in the bud, as it were, because they're afraid that efficiency will continue to eat away at that growth rate that they like to see. And I would like to ask the PSC, please don't let them disincentivize conservation. I think that's exactly the wrong message to give to businesses, low-income people, all ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Butler was our last registered speaker. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and register some comments with the Public Service Commission? Okay, if not, then we'll adjourn the meeting, and I'd like to thank you all very much for your attendance. Would welcome you at our hearing next week, and if you can't come, feel free to watch it on the internet. And sometimes it's boring, but sometimes there are some exciting features. So anyway, thank you very much. Go home and root UK home on the ball game, right?
They're much
much less boring than they used to be.